Judge laughed at the single dad veterans' medals as counterfeits until the Navy Admiral spoke his name. You won't believe what happened to a man named Daniel Hayes, a single dad, a veteran, and a quiet hero who never asked for recognition until one day, he was dragged into a courtroom and laughed at by a judge who had no idea who he was. Daniel lived in a small town in North Carolina. After serving 15 years in the Navy, most of them on ships far from home, he came back to raise his little girl, Lily, all by himself. His wife had passed away while he was deployed. Cancer took her quietly one winter when he was stationed halfway across the world. When he came home, everything had changed. The house felt colder. The photos on the wall looked like pieces of another life. He worked odd jobs, repairing engines, fixing fences, volunteering at the local VFW when he could. He didn't have much, but he had his medals. Not because they were shiny or worth money, but because they told his story, years of service, courage, and sacrifice. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. One day, Daniel saw a used car for sale, nothing fancy, just a pickup truck that would make it easier to take Lily to school and pick up work tools. He went to the dealership, shook hands with a salesman, and signed the paperwork. A week later, he found out that something was wrong with the deal. Hidden fees, a fake warranty, and forged signatures. He had been scammed. When he went back to the dealership to confront them, the manager smirked. "You think anyone's gonna believe you, old man? You don't even look like you've seen real action." Those medals, he pointed to the silver bars on Daniel's jacket, probably came from a pawn shop. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He didn't say a word. He just walked out. But a few days later, they filed a complaint against him, claiming he'd tried to threaten and defraud their business. And that's how a single dad veteran found himself standing in a courtroom, accused of being a liar. The courtroom was packed. A few people from town had shown up, some out of curiosity, others out of disbelief. Daniel stood there in his worn-out navy blazer, holding a small case in his hands. Inside were the medals, his proof of service. The judge, an older man named Judge Klein, looked down his glasses and frowned. "Mr. Hayes, it says here you're claiming to be a decorated Navy veteran, correct?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir. 15 years. Served on the USS Truman and later the Roosevelt." The judge leaned back. "Do you have any proof of that?" Daniel hesitated, then opened the case. He laid out the medals, the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, and a few others. They glimmered faintly under the fluorescent light. But instead of respect, the courtroom filled with chuckles. The judge smirked. "Mr. Hayes, these appear to be counterfeit. Do you expect this court to believe these are authentic? You can buy these online for $50. A ripple of laughter spread through the courtroom. Daniel's hand trembled slightly as he closed the case. He could have shouted. He could have demanded respect. But instead, he said softly, "I earned every one of those at sea, sir. Whether you believe it or not, that's your choice." The judge shook his head. "We'll let the evidence speak. Until then, sit down." And that's when something happened, something no one in that courtroom could have predicted. The double doors opened. A man in a sharp Navy uniform stepped inside. His shoes echoed with every step. His chest was decorated with medals that gleamed brighter than gold, and his posture carried the weight of decades of service. The bailiff straightened immediately. "Admiral on deck," someone whispered. All eyes turned. "Chief Petty Officer Daniel Hayes," the Admiral said loudly, his voice firm and commanding. "I'd recognize you anywhere." The courtroom went silent. The judge stammered, "Excuse me, Admiral, do you know this man?" The Admiral nodded. "Know him? He saved my ship." The room gasped. The Admiral turned toward the court, his voice steady but emotional. 15 years ago, in the middle of the Atlantic, our engine room caught fire. We were minutes away from losing half the crew. It was Chief Hayes who went down there alone and shut down the reactors manually. Risked his life. He walked out covered in burns, smoke, and oil. He didn't ask for a medal then, either. But he got one. From me. He turned to the judge. And if you think those medals are fake, then you're questioning the United States Navy itself. The judge's face turned pale. The laughter was gone. The Admiral continued, his eyes locked on Daniel. I heard what happened. I came as soon as I could. This man isn't just a veteran. He's a hero. And if anyone in this room doubts that, they'll have to answer to me. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that humbles even the proudest man. Judge Klein swallowed hard. I apologize, Mr. Hayes. I had no idea. Daniel stood up slowly. That's all right, Your Honor. I didn't come here for sympathy. I just came here for the truth. The Admiral put a hand on his shoulder. And you've got it, Chief. By the end of the hearing, all charges against Daniel were dropped. The dealership representatives looked like ghosts, silent, pale, and humiliated. But Daniel didn't gloat. He simply picked up his medals, thanked the court, and walked out. Outside, his daughter Lily was waiting. She ran up to him, hugging his waist. Did we win, Daddy? He smiled down at her, his eyes soft. We didn't need to win, sweetheart. We just needed to be honest. The Admiral followed them out, his voice kind. Chief Hayes, the Navy's been trying to reach you. We'd like honor you again, publicly this time. For your service, your bravery, and your integrity. Daniel looked surprised. Sir, I'm just a single dad now. I don't need all that. The Admiral shook his head. You've already given enough. Let us do something for you for once. Months later, a ceremony was held at the naval base. Flags waved in the cold morning wind. Daniel stood there with Lily by his side, dressed in her little blue dress. The Admiral pinned a new medal on Daniel's chest, not for battle, but for honor. The Admiral spoke into the microphone, his voice carrying across the crowd. In a world where truth is often doubted, this man reminded us what integrity looks like. Chief Hayes didn't need to prove who he was, his actions spoke louder than any medal ever could. The crowd applauded. Some people cried. And in that moment, Daniel looked down at Lily, who was smiling proudly up at him. See, Daddy, she whispered. I told you the truth always wins. He smiled, tears welling up in his eyes. Yeah, sweetheart. It does. That night, when they went home, Daniel placed the medals back in their case, not on a shelf, but in Lily's room. They're yours now, he said. A reminder that being honest, even when no one believes you, is the bravest thing a person can do. And for the first time in years, he slept peacefully, not because he'd been vindicated, but because he knew his daughter had seen the truth, the whole truth, and the strength of her father's heart.